Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's video, which can take us to the final day of March actually. 10 days away will be the 31st of March. We'll be able to extend out beyond that into the first week of April with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. We're also going to have a quick look at Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days as well. That takes us more or less to the end of April, beginning with a look at the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations. So I'll get on that for you. Right now, we're going to begin with the Arctic oscillation, observed and forecast chart. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic oscillations, going right way back to November. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. So since February, we've been in a prolonged positive phase of the Arctic oscillation. So your black line is way above this dash line. Dash line is neutral. So we've been in a positive phase of the AO since the early part of February. That's where we are right now. We're still positive with the Arctic oscillation. And we're forecasting with the GFS ensembles that the Arctic oscillation will stay in its positive phase through to the early part of April. So when the Arctic oscillation is positive, you're going to have low pressure over the North Pole. And this is also a sort of zonal signal. It's a signal for zonal westerlies, particularly when it's combined with a positive NAO, and that's exactly what I've got as well. So this shows where the NAO has been, again with the black line. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. We're just here right now in the positive phase of the NAO, as we have been really going back to the beginning of December. It's been such a prolonged positive phase of the NAO now. It is quite remarkable. We're very positive with the NAO at the moment, just there. GFS ensembles are generally forecasting the NAO to stay in the positive phase going through to the early part of April. We do see a little bit of a reduction in the strength of the positive NAO. I mean, that's where we're going to be in the next few days. Really, really positive territory. We do see that coming down a little bit. So we go closer towards neutral. But overall, you can see quite clearly the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to stay positive through to the end of March and the beginning of April. So this combined with what's happening with the AO, the two indexes in very positive territory. This is telling us that the zonal westerlies are going to be strengthened. It's not necessarily a wet signal though, because if you strengthen the Azores high enough, you can ridge the Azores high into western parts of Europe, and that ridge from the Azores high can actually bring a lot of dry and mild weather with it. So it's not necessarily a wet scenario when we have both the indexes very positive like this. But nevertheless, this is a signal for a strengthened zonal flow. So basically, in terms of the broad northern hemispheric pattern, certainly on our side, on the Atlantic side of the northern hemisphere, doesn't look like there's going to be much change really as we're going through to the beginning of April. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS is on the bottom, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue extrapolates to low pressure. So we can see that with the ECMWF, we've got below average heights to our north around Greenland and Iceland and going up towards the North Pole. We've got above average heights across central and northern parts of Europe and also out in the middle of the Atlantic just here. A strengthened westerly flow, doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream, and bringing up generally quite mild southerly southwesterly airflow. So as I say, a positive AO and NAO doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be overly wet, and that isn't a scenario that would be overly wet. Yes, we've got the low pressure up here that gives us the positive AO, but at the same time, even though the AO and the NAO are positive, we still have this ridge here through the mid-latitudes and over here that's going to be bringing a lot of dry weather if that comes off. So it's mild and dry in this kind of pattern. And the GFS is very similar. So again, we've got all this low pressure up here. We've got jet stream pushed up to the north as well. That's going up there. And then we've got this ridge of high pressure almost centred over the top of the UK in the 7 to 10 day time frame, telling us that certainly through to the end of March, we can expect to keep a lot of anti-cyclonic influences going, a lot of dry weather and pretty mild, maybe even at times quite warm weather, will keep going through the next week to 10 days. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. Today we're looking at Irvine up in Ayrshire, up in Scotland. This is another suggested place on our list of suggested locations for this part of the video. So red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Ayrshire. We're starting off mild at the moment. Temperatures are going to drop through to the weekend, but only for a day or so, and then the temperatures are picking up again through the course of next week. This early part of April still causing a little bit of confusion. Looks like overall temperatures do cool from where they are at the end of March, so the early part of April does go a little bit cooler, but maybe one or two of those ensembles are going fairly cold as well. There is quite a lot of scatter there, so I have got some of these ensembles that are going really quite cold for Ayrshire, but other ensemble members are going or are staying generally on the mild side. So the first week of April still remains quite uncertain. I think generally maybe cooling a little bit, though, might be the trend for the first week of April at the moment. As far as precipitation is concerned, I remember this is for southwest part of Scotland, so it's going to be exposed to westerlies a little bit. Generally, quite a lot of dry weather coming up through to the end of March. That's the 31st March just there, but possibly looking a bit more unsettled as we get through to the early part of April. As we get through to the first week of April, it possibly goes a little bit more unsettled after being mainly dry in the next week to 10 days. Temperature anomalies from the 21st through to 29th of March coming out a little bit mild on average. It's going to be generally quite a mild week ahead. Precipitation anomalies are looking like that, very dry. So high and dry continues for the next week. It's going from the 21st through to the 29th of March, of course. Right, so this is how the GFS is looking for Sunday. We've got a ridge of high pressure just out to west of us on Sunday, bringing around some slightly cooler air around the top of that high pressure. So a lot of dry weather over the weekend, but it will be turning a bit cooler. The high pressure then moves back in across the country as we go through the course of next week, cuts off those cooler northerly winds, and temperatures therefore will start to warm up through the course of next week once again. We keep this high pressure going. We saw it on the high normally flow charts. We keep this high pressure stinging around the country as we move up towards day 10. We got to Friday 29th of March. Yeah, we're still under quite a big area of high pressure. At day 10, we just start to bring the weather system into the north of the country and turn the wind into the north. So briefly, it goes colder there for day 10, which is Sunday the 31st of March. And then it's going to the early part of April. We've got the high pressure sitting to our west or our southwest, and we're bringing in this westerly flow from off the Atlantic. So we can expect gently unsettled weather there if that comes off through the first week of April. A little bit showery and probably a bit cooler as well compared to the final days of March. But overall, nothing too dramatic showing up on that GFS run today. This is the parallel GFS run. So again, we have the high pressure just to our west on Sunday, bringing some cooler air in from the north. Then early next week, this high pressure builds back in across the country, bringing a lot of dry and probably increasingly mild, maybe even warm weather through the course of next week. Heading up towards day 10, and this gets us to day 10, which is Sunday the 31st of March. Just starts to go a bit more unsettled from the northwest again as high pressure begins to weaken. Low pressure starts heading from off the Atlantic. So trying to turn a bit more unsettled and a bit colder as well as this low pressure dies southwards, starts pulling some colder winds from the north. It goes actually quite unsettled with the parallel GFS run. That's how we finish up on Saturday the 6th of March. Looking a lot more unsettled actually. Low pressure is just to the east of Scotland. The central pressure of that looks like it's around 965 millibars. So that's quite a deep area of low pressure for early April. And that will bring showers or longer spells of rain. Some quite cold air digging in around that low pressure as well. So probably cold enough for wintry showers up in the north. It does look as though early April could be a little bit more unsettled at the moment. ECM looks like this. So again, we've got the ridge across the country, or just the west of the country on Sunday with cool winds moving around the top. Then into the early part of next week, the high pressure builds back in from off the Atlantic, brings a lot of dry weather and increasingly mild, maybe warm conditions as we run up towards the end of next week. We still have this ridge of high pressure dominated weather. And then again, just same idea, as we get through towards day 10, just starts to turn back a little bit more unsettled as low pressure starts to break through from off the Atlantic. But certainly, that gets to 31st March, but certainly for most of next week, high pressure is dominating, bringing a lot of dry, mild, maybe quite warm weather. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today from the Icelandic Met Office, from the postage stamps at the Icelandic Met Office. This is for the final day of March, 31st of March. So we've got 14 members of the ECM ensembles that have a ridge of high pressure to our south and have low pressure up to the north. We're bringing a westerly flow in with these. For northern parts of the country, it's a little bit unsettled. For southern parts of the country, fair amount of dry weather. Then we've got 10 that have high pressure over into the east of the country, low pressure out to the northwest. Flowing the jet streams like that. So again, for the northwest, it's a little bit more unsettled with those. The driest weather will be in the east. We've got 9 that have high pressure to our south and low pressure up to the north. They're bringing in a westerly flow as well. So sort of just differing options on exactly where this high pressure is going to be sitting. But they're all sort of singing from the same hymn sheet, really. These 14, these 10, and these 9. They're all very similar. They're just subtly different with the placement of the high pressure. These ones, these 7 just here, are a little bit different. They have high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic and low pressure to our northeast, so they're bringing in a northwesterly. They're a bit more unsettled, especially for the north. Then this one's very different, of course. This is also based on the operational ECM run with low pressure forcing its way in off the Atlantic. So those ones turning a lot more unsettled. They're a minority option. And then we've got 4 with high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north. They're bringing some unsettled weather into northern parts of the country. So not greatly supported with the ECM operational run today. It does look as though for day 10 we've basically got some sort of influence of high pressure around, although the exact position of that is quite uncertain. 2 weeks time, these are the options that we've got. So this is taking us to the 5th of April. We've got 22 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure up to the north, high pressure to the south, and they're bringing a westerly flow through like that. So they're quite unsettled, especially in the northern parts of the country. 14 with low pressure up to the north, high pressure to the southwest. So again, particularly the northern parts of the country, quite unsettled. These ones, these 8 here, have high pressure over top of the country, so they're a much more settled scenario. And then there's 7 just there with low pressure out to the west, and they're bringing in a westerly flow, and those ones would be quite unsettled as well. So for the north and west, it also early April probably goes unsettled, but maybe keeping some higher pressure to the south and the east. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty about this early April period. So finally, we just have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 21st through to the 30th of March. The coming 10 days has above average heights to our south and southwest. And then we've got below average heights up to our north and northwest. We're bringing in a westerly flow like that. So, most unsettled conditions in the northwest, driest conditions in the south and in the southeast. The next 10-day period does look more unsettled. This is the 31st of March to the 9th of April, with below average heights, low pressure building to the north, above average heights, developing to the north, above average heights, building to the south, bringing a westerly flow through. So that would turn all parts of the country unsettled through the first 10 days of April. The next 10-day period is going to take us from the 10th to the 19th of April, with a trough of below average heights over top of the country. You would expect really quite unsettled conditions with those. So maybe shaping up to be quite an unsettled April here if this is right. Final 10 days looks a little bit better. This is the 20th through to 29th of April, with above average heights building over into the south of the country. Below average heights are up to the north and the northwest. Jet streams rising north as well, bringing a lot of dry and pretty warm conditions. If that came off, it would certainly turn a lot milder. But up to then, the Beijing Climate Centre is looking quite unsettled, I have to say, particularly through the first half of April. But we should wait and see. All these long-range models are very, very experimental, and they're prone to chopping and changing. We see it in the shorter range output, but as early as the beginning of April, there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment within the shorter range model output. So I think what we can say with quite good confidence is that for the rest of March, generally we're going to be quite dominated by high pressure. There may be a breakdown this high pressure in sort of like the final day or two, around 30th, 31st of March. It might start to go a bit more unsettled. That possibly takes into more unsettled first week to April, and that will be particularly so for the north and west, a little bit less so for the south and southeast perhaps. And then we just have to wait and see where we're going as we go further on into April. Right, that's it for your videos for today. Tomorrow we'll do another week to 10-day video update. We'll also have the JMA Friday. We'll have our month-end look ahead with Japanese and CFS B2 models. And I think we'll have the ENSO update tomorrow evening as well. So that'll be quite interesting to have a look at that, see what's going on with El Nino in the Pacific Ocean. So that's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.